Thanks so much for joining us here on Atlanta News First Plus. You are looking live at protests underway right now. President Trump's new policies sparking these protests really around the country, including at the state capitol, where several groups are gathered, as you can see. And this is happening again. This is here in Georgia, but it's happening in all 50 states. And this is a live look at the state capitol. Numerous groups gathered there to protest President Donald Trump and several new policies. And you've seen them lining the streets for quite a while today. And they've made all sorts of signs as this group gathered to protest against Project 2025, in addition to President Trump's executive orders, specifically his crackdown on illegal immigration and pardoning people who took part in the January 6th riot. And this is a grassroots effort that grew through social media. I want to get to this report put together by our Blake Devine with much more.
Dozens of protesters have lined up here outside the Georgia State Capitol. They've come with plenty of colorful signs as they are protesting against Project 2025, along with President Trump's executive orders, specifically his crackdown on illegal immigration and pardoning people who took part in the January 6th riot at the U.S. Capitol. This grassroots effort grew through social media as it's taking place across the country at all 50 state capitals. These people also aren't too pleased with Elon Musk's influence on the federal government, which is why they've decided to come out here in full force.
Raise awareness, let people know that they're not alone. They're not the only ones that think that Donald Trump is a problem, and we can fight this, but we got to come together.
Many of these protesters are also headed to Centennial Olympic Park for a separate demonstration taking place this afternoon. Reporting from the Georgia State Capitol, Blake Devine, Atlanta News First.
Also making national headlines this afternoon, a judge has thrown out a felony indictment against a former Georgia prosecutor, ending her trial in charges that she abused her power to protect the men who chased and killed Ahmaud Arbery in 2020. District Attorney Jackie Johnson was Coastal Glen County's top prosecutor when Arbery was fatally shot nearly 5 years ago. Today, the senior judge there, John R. Turner, dismissed the 2021 indictment, charging Johnson with violating her oath of office, citing technical errors with its wording. Johnson actually took the stand in her own defense just yesterday. Reporter Flynn Snyder has more.
On the stand, Jackie Johnson maintaining she did nothing wrong.
Told the newspaper that I had blocked the arrest of the McMichaels.
Is that true?
No.
Johnson told jurors she first saw video of Arbery's death in May 2020 on the news and was convinced the shooting was a murder and not a self-defense case, as police initially said. The former DA became emotional, describing an encounter with Arbery's mom soon after.
She said, "I'm Ahmaud's mother." And I grabbed her hand and I said, "I'm so sorry about your son," because she believes that I did all this.
Jackie, this is Greg.
Johnson's defense team focused heavily on calls she had with her former investigator and convicted Arbery murderer Greg McMichael. He's who Johnson is accused of using her power to shield during the Arbery death investigation. The timeline also focusing on calls between Johnson and one-time case prosecutor George Barnhill. Johnson is accused of influencing the case through Barnhill, who according to prosecutors believed Arbery's shooting death was justified. The former DA telling jurors the bulk of those calls were about threats and the online firestorm directed at those involved, as some in the community grew angry over a lack of arrests.
I had not looked at any evidence. My only interest was that with everything going on, that the case, the process be moving along, be working.
When pressed by prosecutors, Johnson said her phone calls with Greg McMichael and Barnhill were not recorded, and no one else was in the room when they happened.
So those phone calls between you and Greg McMichael remain between you and Greg McMichael and nobody else. Is that fair to say?
I'm telling you what happened on the calls. That's what happened.
The defense also pointing out that Johnson handed over Greg McMichael's voicemail and personnel file to investigators once video of Arbery's shooting death was released. The final witnesses in this trial are expected to testify tomorrow morning. In Brunswick, Flint Snyder, WTOC News.
In Barrow County, the school board has now announced it's expanding how many schools have weapons detection systems. The district added the systems to high schools after the mass shooting at Appalachia High School in September, which left 2 students and 2 teachers killed and 9 others injured. Now the systems are being installed within the next week in middle schools as well. One of the victims' brothers spoke at the school board meeting discussing this.
You can't bring my brother back, but you sure can do the necessary steps to make sure this doesn't happen again. Show us that your heart is on this matter. Treat this as if your children attended this school.
Some parents say more needs to be done because teachers are not taking the new security measures seriously enough. And in Douglas County, a mother is still looking for answers after deputies found her son dead in a car during a traffic stop. According to the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, a young man was pulled over during a traffic stop on I-20, January 29th. Deputies found the body of 21-year-old Malachi Mitchell in the car. They say that they took the driver to the sheriff's office for questioning, let him go pending the outcome of the investigation, saying that he was being cooperative. They say the district attorney's office has been briefed on the facts of the case, but Mitchell's mother, Kenya Mitchell, says it just isn't enough. She wants justice. Sarah Hammond has more.
We have heard from the Georgia Bureau of Investigation that they have completed the autopsy of Malachi Mitchell, but we are still working to learn the cause of death. Now, details are limited right now, but what we do know from the sheriff's office is that deputies stopped a young man driving along I-20 late January 29th. According to Douglas County deputies, that's when they found the body of 21-year-old Malachi Mitchell in the car. They say they took the driver to the sheriff's office for questioning, but let him go shortly after, pending the outcome of the investigation. They called the driver cooperative. Yesterday, we heard from Mitchell's mother, who says she was told by a deputy that the driver confessed to shooting the 21-year-old while he was buying a gun from him. But the sheriff's office has not publicly confirmed those details.
Right now, I would love for me, please have our family right now watch the killer walk into this jail in handcuffs, charged with the murder of Malachi Mitchell. That's what we want.
Again, the sheriff's office has not publicly said if Mitchell was shot. They also have not said why the driver was pulled over in the first place. We are still working to get that information. At the Douglas County Sheriff's Office, Sarah Hammond for Atlanta News First.
And this week is the first full week of Black History Month. As part of a series of Atlanta News First specials, reporter Brittany Ford tells us about an internationally known painting with a message that runs deep.
Well, you can find street art all across Atlanta, but this painting here off Memorial Drive, well, it's iconic. The artist behind it calls Atlanta home, and he took us inside his studio where he is continuing to create legendary Black art.
Not only are we looking for help, but we need to help ourselves.
They say a picture is worth 1,000 words.
When I go to young schools or with young people and old people, and everybody alike understands immediately what's going on in this picture.
The message depicted in this painting has transcended decades.
I'm Gilbert Young, and I'm an artist and have been for all my life.
Gilbert Young is an internationally renowned artist, muralist, and conservator, famously known for his piece, He Ain't Heavy.
It's phenomenal for me to be sitting here some 42 years later talking about a piece that I done in the basement of my home.
Young says he was inspired to bring a message of hope during the civil rights movement.
I was sitting there thinking that a great deal of this condition that we are in is internal. That if we would reach back and help our brothers.
Millions of copies of the painting have been sold worldwide, growing Young's popularity as an artist with political edge, capturing the strength and struggle of African Americans.
Don't sell your house, and gentrification of our community.
This painting of President Barack Obama, his second prized possession.
it ended up one of the only pieces in history that a president has signed.
And at 83 years young, he says he's just getting started.
People look at that and know that that's a very iconic piece of Black art. You know, talk about the reach that it has.
Well, the reach is remarkable from my standpoint. First of all, it changed my life. It's a piece that made me who I am today, because every day I have to live up to the image that I have created.
In Atlanta, Brittany Ford, Atlanta News First.
And you can learn much more about Georgia's Black history on our website, atlantanewsfirst.com. You can see this whole section on Black History Month, Atlanta's Untold Stories. And you can also find that on our free Atlanta News First app. For now, back to Local News Live.